When my phone buzzes in my pocket, I notice that I feel something strange. First, I get really excited. Then I get anxious, and then everything just stops, and I don't feel anything at all. I turned 16 yesterday, which means, like most people my age, I have a phone. That also means I carry social media in my pocket everywhere I go. When I was younger, I begged my parents for a phone. Having one is what I associated with being cool and older, like my older siblings with. But however, when I finally got my first phone, I kind of realized that those I once thought were the coolest weren't doing anything cool at all. They weren't talking or laughing or creating anything interesting. They were just there. Earlier this year, me and my classmates got a really bad test back. Most of us had done very poorly. To make light of the situation, we were laughing about it. I had my phone, so when it buzzed, I checked the notification. And while I had my phone out, I also updated a login streak on a game I play way too frequently. When I was finally done and I looked up, I realized that everyone had done the same, and the conversation had completely died. I felt guilty because I was the first to look at my phone, so I tried to start the conversation again, but no one really looked up. That's when I started to realize, it all just feels like we're in a giant experiment, like we're all just a bunch of guinea pigs. And honestly, I don't want to wait until I'm 30 to find out what having a phone does to my brain. Here's why I feel that way. Cigarettes used to be really cool too. I've seen all the good old movies with James Dean and Marilyn Monroe. All of them were smoking on screen because it was so normal back then. My teacher showed us ads from that time. Cigarettes were on billboards, in magazines and newspapers, movies, TV shows. They were everywhere. Cigarettes were a part of everyday life, and they must have been impossible to ignore. But here's the thing. Big Tobacco knew something that their consumers and the public didn't. Lawsuits forced their hidden research to light, and it turns out they knew exactly how addictive nicotine was, and they had spent decades redesigning cigarettes to make them even more addictive. Higher nicotine levels, chemicals so that the smoke could travel deeper into the lungs, and ammonia so that the nicotine could hit the brain even faster. Entire generations had unknowingly become participants in a massive experiment. Eventually, though, the truth came out. Advertisement was banned, and smoking rates dropped from around 40% of adults to closer to only 11 in some places. So, why am I telling you about cigarettes? It's because I don't think the way I feel when my phone buzzes is an accident. Social media uses sophisticated algorithms that learn from every click, scroll, and like. I imagine their goal is quite simple. Keep users engaged for as long as possible. Psychologists call one of these techniques the intermittent variable rewards. A new like, a new comment, or a new message, each one triggers a tiny burst of dopamine in the brain. That's why I continue to open the app even when I know it'll just make me feel worse. And here's where the parallel gets uncomfortable. Tobacco companies famously targeted young people. They knew that if someone were to get addicted early, they were far more likely to stay addicted for life. Social media is capturing users very early. I'm one of them. Infinite scrolling and personalized feeds, all designed to keep attention, especially during the teenage years when habits are still forming. Cigarettes rely on chemistry. Nicotine creates a physical addiction. Social media doesn't use chemicals, it uses behavior. Different tools, same goal. Keep people coming back. For decades, cigarette companies hid research linking smoking to cancer and heart disease. Today, whistleblowers and leaked internal documents suggest that the companies building our feeds know exactly what they're doing to our mental health. And I'm sure we've all seen similar news stories about anxiety and depression and body image. So why is it that their public messaging stays focused on connection and self-expression. Earlier last year, I was also laying in my bed after a really long day of school and running. I love running. I had my phone, and I said that I would just scroll for a couple minutes before I went to bed. 2 hours later, I was still there, scrolling. I was looking at post after post of people my age at big parties with their arms around each other, like life was always that full and effortless. One group stood out to me. They were all together at some big party with lights and music, and it was dozens of people. It looked like something out of a movie. And I know it's never good, and you should never do it, but I did compare my life to theirs. I really only have a few close friends, and suddenly that didn't feel like enough. When I was finally done, and I put my phone down, I felt really weird. Not just tired, but like I'd somehow fallen behind in a race I didn't even know was running. The next morning, I was exhausted, and I knew I'd wasted the whole evening and still somehow felt worse about myself. That's when I started wondering why something that's meant to keep us connected can make me feel so alone. So I know the comparison isn't perfect. Cigarettes never helped anyone stay in touch with a grandparent across the world, or help someone find a community even when they couldn't in their own town. Social media can do things cigarettes never could, and I can't pretend otherwise. There's definitely great things about it, but that's also what makes it so much harder to see clearly. Cigarettes used to be everywhere. They were completely normal. Not smoking could feel like being left out. And when something becomes that normal, it's that much harder to recognize when it might be harming us. The cigarette experiment lasted nearly a century before we fought back. I'm only just 16, and I don't know what scrolling for hours a day does to my brain. Nobody does. That's the point. My generation is the study, and our results are just starting to come in, and they don't look great. So I'm not going to stand up here and ask you to delete your apps. I still have mine. What I'm asking is simpler. The next time your phone buzzes in your pocket, notice what you feel. And ask yourself who designed it to feel that way. Thank you.